Let's get into the real data, the real values, and the real fun behind the 1940 penny. First, let's talk about that unimprovable rule in Philly. This is a 1940 Philadelphia Lincoln cent, rated MS68 red. It sold for $7,500. This is what we call an unimprovable grade. In the PCGS census, there are only about 10 of these in MS68 red. There are 0 finer. That is the ceiling. When a coin literally cannot be improved upon numerically, it stops being a penny and it starts being a real financial asset that you can invest in. This specimen features a dazzling, beautiful patina with rose and lime toning. It's a visual flex that elite registry set owners will pay a massive premium to own. At $7,500, the buyer wasn't just buying copper, they were buying the right to say they own one of the best. But let's talk about the Denver volume trap for 1940. This is a 1940D Denver Lincoln cent, graded MS67 red, and it sold for $99. Now let's take a look at the Denver Mint. 81 million were struck, and this result is a warning for every collector getting into Lincoln cents. Now $99 is a great price, but taking into account grading fees, there wasn't too much of a premium to be had here. It's still a gorgeous high gem coin, of course, but it sold for less than the $100 mark, and this is because MS67 is the survival floor for the Denver cents in 1940. Thousands of these exist in this grade actually, so they're not as rare as you would think they would be. If you aren't hitting that MS68 tier, you are swimming in an oddly massive pool of common inventory. This is the difference between a placeholder in a collection and a real profit coin breaking the $1,000 mark. Speaking of thousands of dollars out of Denver though, let's talk about a Whispering Pines monster. This is a 1940D Denver Lincoln cent as well, graded MS68 red with a CAC sticker. It sold for $10,800. This is the same 1940D that we were just looking at, but elevated to the next dimension. A collector's note here is that this coin is the absolute heavyweight. Hailing from the legendary Whispering Pines collection, it is one of only 8 in MS68 red at PCGS, and it is the sole example with a CAC sticker. So I wanted to show you pure perfection. That green sticker acts as a financial laser, identifying this as the finest of the fine. That single grade jump and that tiny bit of green turned a $99 coin into a $10,000 payday. This is why we get coins graded. Let's head even further over to the San Francisco Mint to talk about a fatty. This is a 1940S San Francisco Lincoln cent graded MS67 red. It sold for $79. Even with 112 million struck, the S Mint usually carries a small premium. This coin is housed in an NGC Generation 5 fatty holder, a favorite for vintage slab enthusiasts. Even with the cool holder though, it still only pulled $79. But this was probably graded some time ago, so the grading fees would have been less, and there's still a premium to be had. It reinforces the 1940 rule. In this decade, if it's a business strike, it's gotta be near the top end of the Sheldon scale to really pull in that crazy value. It's a beautiful piece of history, but it's not a crazy investment here. What about the proof coins though? We can't talk about 1940 without talking about proofs. This is a 1940 Philadelphia Lincoln cent, graded PR66 red. It sold for $317.20, and finally, we're looking at the proof market. Now please take into account, there's others sold in just the last couple of years that have broke the $1,000 mark by far. These can be crazy valuable, as many people want the proofs out of 1940. These have elite numbers: 15,872 coins struck specifically for us collectors. A PR66 red is, of course, a strong grade, but in the proof world, people are really hunting for cameo and deep cameo contrasts, but that's hard to find on wheat cents. This coin is a consistent performer, like I said, though. It sells regularly for 300 to even 1,000 times the face value. It's a solid play for anyone who wants rarity without getting into those crazy 5-figure prices yet. It's the smart entry point for the proofs out of 1940, and really proofs in general from the wheat cents. 1940 is the year where the line between collector and investor is gonna be drawn in the sand. You either own the high population 67s, or you hunt the unimprovable 68s. Or you're like me, and you're in it for just the good-looking coins and the copper. Stop looking for old and start looking for perfect when you're looking through your 1940 Lincoln cents. These wheat cents are where it's at. Whether you collect coins, currency, or really anything at all, if you ever come across a 1941 Lincoln cent in an old collection, in that old jar, heck, in your pocket change, they can be worth far more than the 1 cent face value. These are copper coins worth taking a second look at. So let's talk about some really valuable ones. Let's start with the Whispering Pines Legend. This is a 1941 Philadelphia Lincoln cent, graded MS68 red by PCGS. It sold in the beginning of 2025 for $15,600. You heard that right, $15,000 for 1 penny. This isn't just a high-grade coin, though. This is likely the finest known of the date. This is from the coveted Whispering Pines collection. It is the only MS68 red with a CAC endorsement. Now, to put this in perspective, a 1941 Philly in a grade like MS65 or 66 is worth about $10 to $20. Move to MS67, and you're already up to over $100. This jump to MS68, and with that green CAC sticker, would represent an over 10,000% increase in value. What about high-volume gems, though? This is another 1941 Philadelphia Lincoln cent, graded MS67 plus red from NGC. It sold recently in January of 2026 for $237.90. This is an absolutely beautiful coin. Just look at the colors, look how clean it is, but it also shows that plus premium. Even with a mintage of almost 900 million, a plus designation on any of these 1941 wheat cents really heightens values. Usually ones in higher MS grades with that plus will really hold a firm price in the mid-hundreds. Now for lower grades, and ones without that plus sign, a standard mid-MS grade usually hovers around $100 still. Now that's still a really perfect looking coin. Ones that are going to grade lower than this, say in the AU grades, can still be worth $10 to $30. But you have to take into account the grading fee. You're going to come out even right now, but they would be a great coin to get certified, get graded, and hold on to. Let's head over west to the Mile High Mint, though, and talk about a Denver Fatty. This is a 1941D Denver Lincoln cent, graded MS67 red by NGC. It sold for $104. It also hails from the Westchester collection. This coin has another great thing about it. It's in a Generation 5 fatty holder. Myself included and collectors abroad love these old slabs for their nostalgia and the belief that the grading was tighter back then. Sometimes these can be sent in and get higher grades, so that's a big plus when you buy these graded coins. Now in grades like MS65, a 1941D drops down to about $10 to $30. In MS66, this heightens a little bit until you're at the top of the Sheldon scale for 1941D wheat cents. You're not going to hit that $100, $200 mark. We have to hit all mints, so let's talk about the San Francisco Elite coin. This is a 1941S San Francisco Lincoln cent, graded MS68 red from NGC. It sold for $1,800. San Francisco usually has lower mintages, and in a hugely high grade like MS68, this coin is a monster. With only 6 or so known at NGC in this grade, this almost $2,000 price tag is actually a bit of a steal compared to the Philadelphia prices. When you get into grades like MS67 or lower for 1941Ss, they sell closer to the $100 mark. That's still a great premium, but nowhere close to this $1,800 tag. Now, ones that are even lower grades than that can still sell for really good money, so don't be deterred if you find one with a few little scratches on it. If we're going to talk about all of the values for 1941, we can't forget the proof coins. Before we get to the actual proofs, we have this 1941S Lincoln cent, graded MS65 red, proof-like, from PCGS. It sold for $4,800. This is where you need to put a little attention. This is an MS65. Usually this would be a $20 to $40 coin maybe, but this is the sole proof-like example at PCGS. It has a mirror-like reflectivity usually reserved for proof coins. This is a technical anomaly that collectors will pay thousands to own. You can see these across all years of Lincoln cents, and they are great to look for. I have a video that breaks down proof-like coins, so make sure to check that out. For perspective, a standard 1941S is worth about $10 to $20 as I said before. So since this one was designated proof-like, and it also has a CAC sticker, it sold for 480 times its standard value. Let's jump to those proof coins though, so you really know the values of 1941. Here's the budget proof. A 1941 Philadelphia Lincoln cent, graded PR65 red and brown from NGC. It sold for $84. We know that proof coins are meant to be perfect, but this one is red and brown, meaning it has actually begun to tone. At $84 though, this is a perfect way to own a low mintage proof with only about 21,000 of them made without jumping into a crazy price tag. A PR64RB can usually be found for $50 or lower also. This is one of the most affordable ways to get into the 41 proof market. Lastly, let's talk about a proof trophy though. This is a 1941 Philadelphia Lincoln cent, graded PR67 red from NGC, and it sold for $1,647. So now we see the red premium. This is a top of the census coin with only 55 or so graded this fine. It is stunning, it has full red colors, and it just really shows what a proof coin is intended to look like. The jump from PR65RB at around $80 or $100 to this PR67 red at over $1,600 is massive. It shows that for proofs, color is everything. 1941 is one of my favorite years of Lincoln cents to search for. Now you don't need these high-grade, crazy value coins. You can build a wonderful collection right out of your pocket change. Wheat cents are all copper, they're already worth more than their face value, so you should hold on to every single one of them when you come across them. Also keep in mind a few things. The plus hunt. If you're looking at graded coins and you're able to find ones that are absolutely pristine and have that plus designation, then pick them up. If you're ever grading and you're able to get that plus designation, then you might have easily doubled your money. Also make sure to check 1941S business strikes for how reflective they are. If the fields look like a mirror, you might have found a proof-like rarity that could be worth hundreds over $1,000 maybe. If you're able to secure a really high grade on one of these 1941 cents, it doesn't matter which one it is, you got yourself some good money. We all know the famous 1943 steel cent that followed, but 1942 was a key date. It was the final glorious stand for the 95% copper alloy. So let's get into these really great coins. First up, we start with the workhorse for the year. This is a 1942 Lincoln cent, graded MS67 red by NGC. It sold in February of 2026 for $149. These had a massive mintage of over 650 million. So you might think an MS67 is pretty common, but it isn't. It's actually really hard to find 1942 Philly cents that are in really good condition. Now the bids went kind of crazy for this. Originally they expected it to sell for around $100, but the almost $150 price realized shows that collectors are paying a 35% premium for coins with eye appeal. It has beautiful color and a really clean surface. This is the registry value at work here. If you want to be number one on the leaderboard, you have to win these types of auctions for hard-to-find coins. But what about Denver and the plus factor? If we move over to the Mile High Mint, we see the power of the plus sign. This is a 1942D Denver Lincoln cent, graded MS67 plus red by NGC. It sold in September of 2025 for $264. Now even MS67s without the plus sign can sell for over $100, so all Denver coins are great to look for. Denver in the early 40s was known for producing some of the cleanest strikes for that year. This tiny plus sign represents a coin that is technically a 67, but has the eye appeal of a 68. With over 200 million minted, only a handful survive with this level of surface preservation. So this is literally a trophy for any Denver Mint specialist and a beautiful coin. Just look at the color. Let's head further away from Philly though and go to San Francisco and talk about the premium there. We're all the way west here. The San Francisco Mint has always been the darling of the penny world, I think. This is a 1942 S San Francisco cent, graded MS67 plus red by NGC. It realized $390.40 in the beginning of 2026. It's a recent sale, so let's discuss that jump in price. Purely, it's mintage. San Francisco only struck 85 million cents in 1942. While that sounds like a lot, it's a fraction of what Philadelphia's output was. The S Mint mark combined with the plus grade makes this one of those great condition rarities. It's the lowest mintage hub of the year, and the price reflects that scarcity. Even lower MS grades, even some AU grades for 1942 S Lincoln cents can be seen selling well over $100. So these again are a mint from 42 that you gotta pick up. We can't talk completely about 1942 though without talking about the proof paradox, the beautiful proof coins. This is the coin that breaks the rules. Let's take a look at this 1942 Lincoln cent graded PR65 brown by PCGS. This proof coin sold in April of 2026 for $427. What a great price for a proof coin. But wait a minute. A brown coin sold for more than the red San Francisco one we just looked at? You betcha. Only 32,600 proof sets were made in 42. This would be before the mint shut down proof production to focus on the war effort. Because the mintage is so low, collectors will fight over any high-grade proof, but really any proof, from 1942. Even beat-up ones can sell for the hundreds. This PR65 brown shows that rarity and strike type trumps color every time. Let's end off with one of my favorites from 1942, the Variety Hunter's Payday. This is a 1942 D/D re-punched mint mark. It's graded MS64 red by Annex. It sold for $159 in April of 2026. This is a recent sale, and this is a top 100 variety. If you look at the D mint mark, you can see a clear secondary D shifted to the south of it. Even in a lower MS64 grade like this, the variety carries this coin to a triple-digit price every time. Even beat-up ones, even ungraded ones, can sell for good money. 1942 D/D repunch mint marks, even ungraded, are a $20 to $50 coin in a lot of cases. This is why you gotta audit your coins. This could have easily been spent as a common penny or thought of as just a beat-up old cent if the owner hadn't been looking for the RPM. So knowing your varieties, knowing your errors is really important. So make sure to check out every one of my videos on Lincoln Cents so you can learn all about them. 1942 is an absolutely awesome year. If you're hunting these pennies, you're going to see 3 letters everywhere: RD, RB, and BN. Red is always going to be the best to look for. It means the coin still looks like it just dropped out of the die in 1942. For a coin to stay red for over 80 years, it had to be sealed away almost immediately. Red and brown, or RB, and brown, or BN, occur when oxygen reacts to the copper and it begins to oxidize. 1942 is again the ultimate hunting ground for the detail-oriented collector like you. My strategy's really easy for them. Mainly look for the S mint marks. The San Francisco business strikes are the safest bet for long-term value growth. We've seen this for many years. Of course, keep an eye out for proof coins. They're always wonderful, and even ones that are a bit beat up can be worth really good money. And lastly, I love me some errors. Scan for the Ds. If you see a double D or that D/D repunch mint mark, you're sitting on some really good money. Since every scrap of copper was needed for shell casings and communication wires, the US government and US Mint changed over to a steel cent for 1943. But there is a catch. Because these steel cents were plated in zinc, they are actually a nightmare for collectors today. They rust, they zinc rot, and most of the ones you find in jars and pocket change have been reprocessed, meaning someone spray painted them or recoated them or cleaned them. Today we're going to take a look at certified sales from auction houses so I can explain what you need to look for and how much these coins can be worth. So let's get into it. First up, we have the Philadelphia baseline. We start out with the Philly business strikes. This is a 1943 Lincoln cent, graded MS67 by NGC. It sold in May of 2026 for $207.40, a massive premium for this beautiful coin. Philadelphia produced over 680 million of these. Despite the high mintage though, hitting MS67 is a technical challenge because the steel planchets were harder than the copper, causing the dies to wear out really quick. A collector's note here is that in lower circulated grades like VF or XF, a raw 1943 Philly cent is usually worth about 10 to 25 cents. But if you were to come across a lot of beat up ones, that money can add up fast. If it's a nice, raw, uncirculated version, you can actually get up to $3 or $5 for this. You only hit triple digits though when the grade is certified at MS65 or higher. Now when we shift over to the Denver Mint, where the strike quality was significantly better, we see a rise in values overall. This is a 1943D Denver Lincoln cent, graded MS67 plus red by NGC. It sold for a whopping $463.60 in the beginning of 2026. Now notice that jump from the Philly coin. That plus designation indicates superior eye appeal for this coin. You can see that in the color and the fields of this coin. Denver coins often have the best frost of the three mints. At nearly $500, this coin is a mandatory piece for any top-tier registry collector. Ungraded 43D cents in average condition are pretty common actually. They generally retail from 25 to 50 cents, and you can pick them up at any local coin shop. Even a raw, high-end, uncirculated specimen rarely breaks 5 to 10 bucks. It's not until you get to these upper grades, or you see these plus designations, that you see really high values for Denver. But let's talk about a dead zone for Denver. This is a 1943D Lincoln cent as well, graded MS66 by PCGS. It sold for only $79 in the end of 2025. Now, we have seen prices start to trend upward in 2026 and going forward, but look at the difference. An MS67 Plus brought over $400, but dropping just 1.5 points down to MS66 crashed the price under $80. After grading fees, after shipping, the person who sold this barely broke even probably. A note here is this is the most common gem grade. If you find a very shiny 1943D in an old collection, it's likely an MS64, 65, and can still sell for an upwards to $30 to $50, but raw, they're like a $2 coin. It's not until you hit the higher end of MS grades that you really see good values out of Denver. Let's move further over though and talk about the San Francisco gem entry. San Francisco is usually the premium mint, but not always at the lower gem levels. This is a 1943S San Francisco Lincoln cent rated MS66 by PCGS. It sold for $64 in May of 2026. This is a really recent sale and a fantastic entry point for any of you new collectors. It has that original satin luster, but hasn't reached the stratospheric top pop levels yet, so it's an affordable coin. Circulated 1943 S cents carry a very tiny premium over Philly and Denver due to a lower mintage. They usually sell for around 50 cents to $1. In uncirculated condition, sometimes around $3 to $7. Let's take a look at a masterpiece though, out of San Francisco to talk about one of the most valuable coins for this year though. This is a 1943S San Francisco Lincoln cent graded MS68 by PCGS, also sporting a CAC sticker. It sold for a staggering $4,758 on May 1st of 2026. This one is legendary. From the Lalonde family collection, it features frost white surfaces and a hint of reflectivity. It's absolutely beautiful. PCGS has only seen about 6 coins finer than this. When you combine a 68 grade with that CAC green endorsement, you aren't just buying a penny. You're buying a literal trophy in the numismatic asset world. Don't get confused though. Your raw, shiny penny is not this coin. To hit MS68, the coin must have been handled with surgical precision, one tiny scratch, and this $4,700 value would drop to like $100. Let's finish out the video with a really cool overdate variety so you know about at least one of the errors, and then keep an eye out for my other video that explains every single 1943 error to include that bronze error. This is a 1943/2 San Francisco double die obverse FS101, graded MS67 by PCGS. It sold for $2,562 in March of 2026. Let's look closely at the 3 in the date. You can actually see the tail of a 2 underneath it. This is a classic overdate variety. In MS67, there are only about 28 known to exist. This is literally the top treasure for 1943 variety hunters. If you find this variety in circulated condition, so raw, it is still worth $100 to $300 or more. This is one of the few 1943 pennies where condition is secondary. The variety is where the value is. This Lincoln cent is super important, so check every S mint mark date to see if you find this valuable heir. 1943 is one of my favorites. I think many people love the steel cents in the steel cent market, but it's a game of technical exactness, I think. So forget the shiny ones. If it looks like a mirror, it's probably cleaned or reprocessed, but you'll want to take a closer look under a loupe or scope to really see that satin, zinc white frost that you're looking for. Also realize in 1943, unless you're sure that it's going to grade at the top of the Sheldon scale, MS 65, 66 or higher, then you don't want to eat your profits by sending in a coin that's beat up. You are not going to grade high enough to really make a premium, but of course, if you're just trying to preserve something for your collection, then go for it. Lastly, every 1943 S should be checked under a loupe or a scope. You want to look for that FS101 overdate. If you find one, you could have that $2,000 lottery ticket just hiding in plain sight, cash in, and have a great payday. You probably know the story. Copper was needed for World War II munitions, so the US Mint switched to zinc-coated steel. That's how we got the 1943 steel pennies. Transitions are rarely flawless, though. Planchets to make these coins got stuck in the bins. Dies are reused, and sometimes the mint produces anomalies that defy explanation. I'm going to talk about things from common die varieties you can find with just your eyes or a loupe, to a unique proof-like steely, all the way up to the one you probably want to see, the legendary copper alloy errors that command $250,000. So let's get into the values of error and variety coins for the 1943 Lincoln cents. Let's just start with the king of the crop. This is a 1943 bronze cent graded AU55 by PCGS. It also sports a CAC sticker. This coin also hails from the Whispering Pines collection. It sold for $264,000 in January of 2025. How does this happen? The most likely theory is that a handful of 1942 bronze planchets were left trapped in the feeder or transport carts. When the 1943 production began, these stray bronze blanks were struck with the new 1943 dies. This specific piece has a beautiful golden brown color and it weighs 3.11 grams. This is definitive proof that this is a true bronze planchet, not a plated fake, which are very common out there. It is one of perhaps 20 or so known out of the Philadelphia Mint. A beautiful coin. But let's move from the off-metal errors for a second to the die varieties. Let's take a look at this 1943 over 42S double die obverse FS101, graded MS67 by NGC. It sold in March of 2026 for $2,013. This is one of those phenomenal overdate errors. I have another video previous to this one that covers another one, so you know they're out there. The San Francisco Mint used a working hub that bore the 1942 date, and then it was impressed again with a 1943 hub. You can actually see the remnants of the two beneath the three. It's really cool. In an MS67 grade, the zinc-coated steel surfaces are impeccably preserved. This is one of those beautiful coins that has that crystal clear doubling to it. Not every major variety costs thousands of dollars though, but they're all really neat to hunt for. Let's take a look at a 1943 D over D re-punched mint mark, specifically the RPM2. This one's graded MS66 by Annex, and it sold in April of 2026 for a really good price of $139. So during this era, mint marks were still punched into the working dies by hand. The punch bounced or was struck twice, leaving a distinct secondary D offset from the primary mint mark. It's a great, affordable piece that any advanced wheat cent collector can add to their set. It's a beautiful coin and a really cool error, and one that you can find in pocket change. Speaking of which, let's take a look at another variation of that repunch mint mark, but from Denver. This is a 1943 D over D FS501 Lincoln cent graded MS63 by PCGS. It sold for $341.60 in March of 2026. I think cherry pickers and coin collectors alike love the FS501 because the spread between the punches is really noticeable and prominent. Even in a lower uncirculated grade like MS62, where some of the original zinc luster might be slightly subdued compared to like a gem version, the mechanical error is still undeniable. So always check your 1943 D cents under a magnifier, under a loupe, because you could be sitting on $200-300. Now let's jump back though and talk about another crazy sale of the bronze cent. When you're tracking market history on high-tier coins, you find another really cool auction event for a 1943 bronze cent. This one graded AU55 with a CAC sticker. This sale took place in April of 2021, which I know is a while ago, but I wanted to show you the consistency on how expensive bronze cents can get. This coin realized $240,000. It is incredible to see how the market commands premiums for these problem-free choice AU examples of this transitional alloy error. This is one of those pieces that if you find it in the weight of 3.11 grams, it still requires XRF metallurgical testing. Fakes are everywhere, like I said before in the video, so if you ever were lucky enough to find one of these bronze cents, and like I said, there's only 20 or so out there known, you have to get it tested entirely and certified. Let's close out with one of my favorites though, and it's not an error. It's an anomaly of striking quality. This is a 1943 San Francisco Lincoln steel cent rated MS68 plus proof-like by PCGS. It sold in January of 2026 for a crazy amount of $21,960. Steel cents are almost never proof-like. PCGS recognizes 0 proof-like examples from Philadelphia or Denver, and only 10 or so from San Francisco. This piece is the sole finest, so I wanted to end the video on it. It has beautiful reflective fields that are the result of intense die polishing, creating a subtle cameo effect against the frosted devices. Just take a look at the obverse and reverse of this masterpiece of wartime minting. It's beautiful. We've looked at bronze planchets, overdates, and repunch mint marks. But the 1943 penny has other major errors out there, other anomalies to look for that you can really strike gold with. Look for broad strikes, off-center strikes, die breaks or cuds, as well as super rare occurrences of wrong planchet errors. With over 2 billion struck across all 3 mints, the 1944 Lincoln cent is one of the most common coins on the planet. It's a great wheat cent that you can pick up in those dusty old bins at your local shop and even in some pocket change. But common doesn't mean valuable in all cases. In some cases, it does. We're stripping away the hype and looking at exactly what it takes for a billion mintage cent to command serious value. We'll start with the 1944 Philly baseline. This is a 1944 Lincoln cent in MS67 red, graded by NGC. It sold on March 17th of 2026 for $149. Now that's a great premium for this coin. Philly produced over 1.4 billion of these. Hitting an MS67 requires pristine surfaces and beautiful color like this coin has. It has a lot of that original red luster from the mint. For $150, you are buying a technically brilliant survivor of a massive production run. But keep in mind a collector's note. In lower circulated grades, a raw 1944 Philadelphia cent is usually worth just the copper melt value, usually a few cents. Even a nice, raw, uncirculated coin will sell for around $2 to $5. You need to certify an MS65 or better to start seeing real premiums over that grading fee. So keep that in mind. You're looking for really, really good luster and red-colored coins. Let's talk about the single finest Philadelphia coin, though, so you know exactly what perfection looks like. This is the ceiling for Philadelphia strikes. This is a 1944 Philadelphia Lincoln cent graded MS68 red by PCGS with a CAC sticker. It sold really recently in January of 2026 for the astronomical price of $24,400. So why this massive jump? It's really population mechanics. While MS67s are available, MS68 is a major condition rarity. PCGS reports only 4 or so in this grade. What sets this specific coin apart is that CAC green endorsement. Not only is this coin absolutely beautiful, it is the only MS68 red with a CAC sticker right now. It features flawless copper pink hues and a perfect strike. Just look at this wonderful coin. Do not assume your shiny 1944 penny is an MS68 though. A single microscopic carbon spot or bag mark drops the grade immediately, and the price plummets from this crazy $24,000 back down to a couple $100. Higher grade ones in MS66 or higher can be seen selling for easily $100 to $300 in a lot of auctions. Let's move out west to the Denver Mint so we can look at our benchmark piece. This is a 1944D Denver Lincoln cent graded MS67 red by PCGS. It sold on March 17th of 2026 for $159. Denver struck over 430 million of these. The strike quality is generally sharp. It's a highly liquid, predictable asset in the market. You see these selling steadily. Ungraded 1944D cents in average condition are bulk bin coins, though. Despite that mintage being a lot lower than Philly, you just see a lot of them in beat-up condition. But they are retailing for a few cents over face value, even over that copper melt value. Now, if you find one in a roll or an unopened roll, then you could be sitting on good money if they're in good condition. We need to talk about the 1944D condition census, though. This is what happens when a Denver strike achieves near perfection. So like that perfect-looking Philadelphia coin, this will give you a good example of what you're looking for when you're searching for flawless coins. This is a 1944D Denver Lincoln cent graded MS68 red by PCGS. It sold on January 16th of 2025 for $9,300. Just like that Philly issue, the MS68 grade is a massive choke point. PCGS and NGC report only 5 or so 1944D cents in this grade. This piece is from the Whispering Pines collection and was struck from fresh dies and has 0 spotting. It's absolutely gorgeous. Remember that copper is highly reactive. Finding an 80-year-old copper coin with completely unspotted, frosty orange luster is like a statistical anomaly. That is what the $9,000 premium is paying for here. Let's move further west from Philadelphia and hit the San Francisco Mint and talk about the entry level. This is a 1944S San Francisco Lincoln cent graded MS67 red by NGC. It sold in September of 2025 for $64. Now, a stark difference in price compared to some of the coins we've talked about so far. San Francisco struck over 280 million of these. Interestingly, MS-67 red examples from the San Francisco Mint are actually trading lower than their Philadelphia and Denver counterparts. At $60, this is a highly accessible entry point though. I urge any of you to purchase these types of coins when you see a sale like this. I mean, the grading fees are almost the same as the sales price, and this is one sharp coin. San Francisco coins from this era can sometimes suffer from mushy strikes and weak luster. When hunting raw coins, always check the sharpness, especially in Lincoln's beard, and the wheat stalks on the reverse. If they're really clear, then you might want to get it graded. Let's round out the video looking at the power of the plus grade and the plus factor in San Francisco. This is a 1944 San Francisco Lincoln cent rated MS-67 Plus Red by PCGS. It sold in December of 2025 for $660. Notice the jump from the $64 MS-67. That single little plus designation indicates superior eye appeal that flirts with that MS-68 threshold. For any collector fighting for the top slots, that half-point difference is going to justify 1,000% price increase. The difference between MS-67 and MS-67 Plus is going to be invisible to the naked eye. It will require 5 times to 10 times magnification and a deep understanding of grading standards to see the difference. 1944 is an absolutely wonderful year to collective Lincoln cents. There's even a ton of valuable errors which I'll cover in another video, so hit the notifications button so you get notified for that. Ignore the clickbait telling you that every single one of these 44 pennies is a gold mine. Of course, pick up and keep any wheat cent you can. They are worth copper value, but it's a few cents. If it has brown spots, it's not a gem red, so it's also going to be worth just a few bucks. If you want to play in the high-tier market, you have to really focus on eye appeal, strike preservation, and if you're in the market for buying graded coins, you're going to need to look at professional grading registry numbers to see where those coins fit before buying them. Even though there was over 1 billion minted in Philadelphia alone, 1945 Lincoln cents can be really rare and really valuable, but you need to know what to look for. The rarest thing here is finding one that survived the metallurgical laws of its own creation. I'll show you exactly what the values are and what to look for. So let's jump into it. Let's start with the Philly baseline. These are the business strikes out of Philadelphia. This is a 1945 Lincoln cent graded MS-67 Red by NGC. It sold in September of 2025 for $104. Now that's a small premium over the grading fees, even with Philly producing a staggering 1 billion of these. Despite the massive supply, an MS-67 Red requires highly preserved luster and clean fields like this coin. At around $100, this is the accepted baseline for a premium, registry quality World War II cent that would be great to grace any collection. Now, a collector's note here is that you shouldn't confuse this with a circulated 1945 penny. In low grades like VF or XF, a raw 1945 Philadelphia cent is worth about 5 to 10 cents max. Uncertified, uncirculated rolls are actually common, meaning raw BU examples rarely break the $2 or $3 mark. You only see triple digits when the coin secures an MS-66 or higher grade. What about the Philadelphia plus factor? Let's look at what happens when you push that grade by just a fraction of a point. This is a 1945 Lincoln cent graded MS-67 Plus Red by PCGS with a CAC sticker. It sold in January of 2025 for $6,054. Notice the jump from that $100 baseline. PCGS has awarded the Plus designation to around 24 examples, indicating superior eye appeal and a phenomenally sharp strike under 10 times magnification. So this coin straddles that MS68 grade. Now combine that with a green CAC sticker, verifying it as high-end for the grade, and the price explodes by nearly 6,000%. The difference here is microscopic, though. A single tiny fleck on the E in Liberty is the only thing keeping this from an MS68. Grading at this tier is an exact science, so never assume a raw coin is going to get one of these Plus designations. Let's head out west, though, and talk about the Denver Mint and the baseline there. This is a 1945D Denver Lincoln cent, graded MS67 red by NGC. It sold in March of 2026 for $104, so the same price as a couple of coins ago, and a really good premium still, albeit small, for this coin. Denver minted 266 million cents that year. Like the Philly baseline, an MS67 red from Denver provides a highly liquid, stable asset for us collectors. The strikes here are generally really strong, and the market consensus firmly anchors this coin right around $100. Now keep in mind that because 1945D cents are actually pretty plentiful on the market, submitting one for grading is really a risk unless you're absolutely certain it will grade MS66 or higher. An MS65 will cost you more in grading fees than the coin is worth. The market is simply flooded with decent Denver cents. Speaking of decent Denver cents, let's talk about the absolute peak for the Denver Mint. This is a 1945D Denver Lincoln cent, graded MS68 red by NGC. It sold in June of 2025 for $8,700. Why nearly $9,000? Out of 266 million struck, PCGS and NGC report only 10 or so examples tied for the highest grade. The recycled shell casing alloy was highly susceptible to spotting and streaking. Finding a 1945D with bold, flawless golden amber luster without a single carbon spot like this one is a statistical anomaly, a needle in a haystack. When dealing with MS68 copper, you are paying for the complete absence of any environmental reaction. Even keeping a coin like this stable requires strict humidity and temperature control. Let's head further west, though, and talk about San Francisco. This is a 1945S San Francisco Lincoln cent, graded MS67 red by NGC. It sold in September of 2025 for $49. Now I know what you're thinking. What a stark drop in price compared to any of the other coins. Mintage in San Francisco dropped to 181 million because the San Francisco Mint was busy striking coins for the Philippines. Despite the lower mintage, the MS67 red baseline trades at half the price of Philly and Denver. It is one of the most affordable points of entry for a gem red S Mint wheat cent. I implore any of you to jump on these if you get an opportunity. San Francisco dies were really heavily used, often leading to mushy strikes. When hunting for any coins out of San Francisco for 1945, really prioritize the sharpness of the wheat stalks and Lincoln's profile. Those are the ones that are going to get the best value. Talking more about value out of San Francisco, though, let's talk about a benchmark. Finally, we push the S Mint to the top tier. This is a 1945S San Francisco Lincoln cent, graded MS68 red by NGC. It sold in November of 2025 for $2,160. With only 9 coins recognized in MS68 red, this is a major condition rarity. Just look how beautiful this coin is. The pristine red surfaces and vibrant mint luster prove that San Francisco was actually capable of producing spectacular strikes amidst a heavy wartime workload. The collector's note here is that the pricing gap between the 1945D MS68 at $8,700 and the 1945S MS68 at a little over $2,000 highlights a crucial market reality. High-end demand heavily dictates those ceiling prices. So always check census populations before dropping a lot of money like this on a coin. There's a jump from an accessible $150 baseline to a near $10,000 condition rarity that you can find in 1946 cents. So let's break it down. Let's start off with the Philadelphia baseline. We're at the Philly Mint. This is a 1946 Philadelphia Lincoln cent graded MS66 Plus red by PCGS. It sold in October of 2025 for $154. Philadelphia produced just shy of $1 billion cents in 1946. Because the quality control on the final batch of shell case alloy was erratic at best, achieving a true high MS60s grade is much harder than in previous years. That makes an MS66 Plus red the stable, accessible baseline for a premium registry build. This Plus designation also lets it sit right on the grade of MS67, and you can tell from the beautiful colors and surface on this one why it got just shy of the next grade up. Now don't confuse this with a circulated 1946 penny. In average circulated condition, a raw 1946 Philly cent is worth about 5 to 10 cents tops. You only see triple digits when the coin secures high-end slabbed grades. The alloy is highly prone to oxidation and spotting, more so than other years of wheat cents. So if you come across one of these 1946 Philly cents and it's truly clean looking, you might want to consider getting it certified and graded. What happens when you hit the absolute pinnacle out of Philadelphia, though? Let's talk about that ceiling, and it's an expensive one. This is a 1946 Philadelphia Lincoln cent graded MS67 Plus red by PCGS, sporting a CAC endorsement as well. It sold in the beginning of 2025 for an incredible $9,600. So why this huge premium? It's going to be population rarity. PCGS has awarded the MS67 Plus grade to only 3 or so examples of this coin. This pristine, spot-free, pumpkin orange lustered coin that you see here is a statistical anomaly. Finding a 1946 shell case cent with 0 environmental reaction or spots after 8 decades is the primary driver for this 5-figure valuation. So again, if you come across a clean cent out of Philly from 1946, then you might be sitting on really good money. Let's move west to Denver, though, and talk about how the standard shifts slightly. This is a 1946D Denver Lincoln cent graded MS67 red by PCGS. It sold at the end of 2025 for $169. Now with a mintage of 315 million, Denver had slightly better quality control, meaning the market baseline for a registry grade or high grade example comfortably hits MS67. This doesn't mean lower grades aren't valuable, though. We still see lower MS grade Denver coins sell for good money, about $40 to $80 sometimes. For just under $170 here, you are getting a top-tier gem red coin. This thing's really stunning. Anything below this, for the Denver issue, might top out at about the grading fees right now, but are still worth picking up. Just like we did with Philadelphia, here is the condition ceiling for Denver, though. This is a 1946D Denver Lincoln cent rated MS67 Plus red by PCGS. It sold in January of 2026 for $2,928. Now notice how a simple plus designation awarded for superior eye appeal within the MS67 tier drove that price up nearly 1,600% over that last coin. In the high-end copper and wheat cent market, you are paying for strike sharpness in fields free of any contact or bag marks. This coin proves that even for non-key dates out of the wheat cent series and Lincoln cent series, the plus grade acts as a massive multiplier at the absolute top of the population. We can't talk about 1946 without talking about every mint, so we head further west from Philadelphia to the San Francisco Mint. This is a 1946S San Francisco Lincoln cent, graded MS67 red by NGC. It sold in March of 2026 for $244. San Francisco had the lowest mintage of the year at just shy of 200 million. Because of the lower relative mintage, the San Francisco MS67 red baseline trades a lot higher than both Philadelphia and Denver. So San Francisco is really one of the great mints also, and I think the top one right now that you should look for out of 46. If you're building one of those gem red sets, or you're just into really beautiful looking coins, the S Mint is your highest barrier to entry at the baseline level though. They are a little more pricey, but we see them historically gaining value more steadily than the Philly and Denver counterparts. 1946 Lincoln cents closed the book on the World War II shell case era. Now there's other anomalies in years after this, but 46 is one of the best years to hunt for. The lesson's really simple in my opinion. When dealing with those unstable alloys, pristine condition is everything. The cleaner the surface, the cleaner the strike, the cleaner the fields, and the better the color, the more money you're going to get out of 1946. A single carbon spot can drop a coin from $9,000 to $100 or $200. Still a great profit, but a lot of loss. If possible, look for those coins that are already graded and slabbed, because those are stabilized and kept from further oxidation. Really focus on strike and eye appeal. That's the biggest thing for 1946. Wartime die anomalies. What do I mean? I'm talking about great errors that you can look for on 1946 cents that can be worth really good money. So let's get into it. First, what the heck is a repunched mint mark and an inversion? We gotta go a little bit beyond the surface here. If you're new to variety hunting or you just need a refresher, then this will really help you out. Looking at a mint mark can be a little overwhelming sometimes. So what exactly are we looking for? Well, that's important if you want to understand the values of these errors. Back in 46, mint marks weren't part of the master hub design like they are today. They were hand-punched into individual working dies by mint employees using a mallet and a steel punch. If the worker slipped up, hit it twice, or grabbed the wrong punch entirely, which believe it or not that happens, an error is born. To identify the 1946 S over D over mint mark error, also known as the FS511, you need to look closely at the upper and lower loops of the S. You'll need to do this under a good loupe or a magnification that's at least 5 or 10 times. You will see the crisp, distinct corners of an underlying D peeking out from underneath the curves of the S mint mark. It looks like a little shadow box effect. For the inverted mint mark, known as the FS501, it's a completely different puzzle. The worker actually held the S punch upside down. On a standard 1946 S, the top loop of the S is slightly smaller than the bottom loop. On the inverted variety, the large loop is on the top and the small loop is on the bottom. It looks really top-heavy, basically, like it's about to tip over. To spot these, magnification is going to be your best friend. Really, 10 times or 20 times jeweler's loops might even be mandatory. You don't need a scale for these alloys since they are all a standard 3.11 grams made out of former shell cases, but you do need the sharp eyes and a clear understanding of what I just explained to know what a normal San Francisco S looks like, so you can tell the difference. Now that you understand what you're looking for and what you're hunting for on these varieties, let's talk about those three examples so you know the values. Let's start with an example that shows how accessible a major variety can be if you target the right grade. This is a 1946 S over D Lincoln Cent over mint mark error, variety FS511, graded MS64 red by PCGS. It sold in May of 2025 for $360. So what a premium for this coin. At MS64, this coin represents an excellent entry point for serious variety collectors. The PCGS report sits at around 14 examples in this grade, with 46 of them finer. Because it's a full red color coin as well, it maintains that stunning copper-orange color as you can see here. If you really look closely at the mint mark area under the magnification on your screen, the underlying Denver D is really cleanly visible beneath that San Francisco S. So for us collectors looking to add a certified cornerstone error, this is without a doubt a great way to not get into four figures and get something that, yes, is a few $100s, but gonna gain value over time, as they are just wonderful varieties for any collection. Let's jump to that other error though and talk about our next example, where we see a mechanical blunder that often goes completely unnoticed in searching rolls. This is a 1946 S San Francisco Lincoln Cent with an inverted mint mark error, also known as an FS501, graded MS63 red by PCGS. It sold in May of 2026 for $139. So you can see here even the lower MS grades for these types of errors can sell really well, and this is a really recent auction sale out of Heritage Auctions. The FS501 is an incredibly scarce coin in terms of those pure numbers. PCGS has graded only like 5 examples in MS63 with around 40 finer. Yet because inverted mint marks don't always capture that same casual media attention as over mint marks, the price has remained highly reasonable, and here it's only about $140. It features full original mint red luster here too. I mean, this coin's really pretty for a lower MS grade coin. When you look at that S, the top-heavy distortion is really undeniable. This is a pure connoisseur's coin. It's like the toned ones that I love. Highly rare by population, but still affordable for those niche collectors. Let's hop back to that over mint mark error so we can talk about an insane value with those before we close out the video. We're now getting into the absolute ceiling for the year. A trophy coin that commands an elite premium. This is a 1946 S over D Lincoln Cent with an over mint mark error, variety FS511, graded MS66 plus red by PCGS. It sold in November of 2023 for $1,200. Now I know this sale was about 18 months ago, but look at that massive price jump from the MS64. We went from $360 all the way up to $1,200. This is because conditional rarity at the gem level is going to be really brutal. PCGS shows a population of only 13 in 66, with only a single coin graded higher with this error, and it's alongside a mere 2 examples securing that crucial plus designation. The lustrous color here on this piece is really blinding too. It's a stunning and beautiful coin, and the strike is remarkably sharp for an S-Mint die of this year and era. It features no carbon spots, preserving that flawless red surface very beautifully. This is one of those pure registry plays here. When two collectors are fighting to have that top spot, you're gonna see skyrocketed prices like this. 1946 San Francisco varieties really show us that the finest details hold those greatest values. So study the punch geometry, because before you buy or submit your 1946S, look at verified examples of what the FS501 inversion looks like. Don't take this video for the truth. Go do your own research and make sure you get familiar with it. Also, you want to demand attribution. Sometimes annex is the better way to go when it comes to varieties and errors, so keep the grading company in mind. Also, go with color over grade. When it comes to copper varieties, a pristine MS64 red will always be more liquid and desirable than an MS65 red and brown. Protect the red surfaces, get it certified and graded and preserved so your coin can stay lustrous and beautiful for years to come. Mainly, you can really preserve that value. Some of these coins can be worth a ton of money. A bar for perfection has been raised when it comes to 1947 wheat cents. Since the strikes were cleaner and the surfaces were more stable, millions of these coins were saved in near perfect condition. That creates a massive divide in the market, showing a really brutal cliff between common coins and staggering prices for those registry grade condition rarities. We're going to also dive into a really fun repunch mint mark error that you can look for on your wheat cents that can be worth an upwards of a few $100s. So let's get into it. Let's start with the absolute ceiling for the Philadelphia business strike. This is a 1947 Philadelphia Lincoln cent, graded MS67 Plus red by NGC, sporting a CAC green sticker. It sold right at the end of 2025 for $4,320. Philly produced over 190 million of these. Look at the NGC census though. There are only around 54 coins graded MS67, and only 4 with that plus designation. There are 0 graded finer, and this CAC sticker confirms that for the experts, this coin's eye appeal sits at the very top of the curve. Now, a collector's note here is that in lower, circulated grades, a raw 47 Philly cent is worth around 5 to 10 cents. Even a raw, uncirculated coin will bring around $2 to $6. You only hit the massive 4-figure returns, though, when the coin is certified at the top of the population report. Now let's take a look at what happens when you drop down just 1.5 points, though, for 47 cents. This is a 1947 Philadelphia Lincoln cent, graded MS66 red by PCGS. It sold on December 23rd of 2025 for $74. That's a stark difference from the previous coin, of course. This is that volume rarity sweet spot, but it is also a value trap for sellers. After grading fees, shipping, and auction cuts, the person who submitted this coin probably lost money. It's a beautiful, high-grade coin, but because there are so many of them on the market right now, it remains an affordable entry point for buyers rather than a payday for sellers right now. This is the most common gem grade. If you are building a budget set, though, buy this coin already slabbed immediately if you see them for sale around this price. Don't waste your own $40 in a grading fee and hoping that it comes back at MS66 or higher. Let's hop over to the Mile High Mint, though, and talk about the Denver Plus factor, where we're going to see the power of the plus grade in action again. This is a 1947 Denver Lincoln cent, graded MS67 Plus red by PCGS. It sold for $2,040 in November of 2025. Now, Denver produced 194.7 million cents this year, and their strikes were typically strong. The wholesale value for a standard 67 is around $180, which is still pretty strong. By adding the plus designation, though, the auction price jumped to over $2,000. The market heavily rewards those rare examples that exhibit superior blinding luster. Ungraded 1947 Denver cents in average circulated condition are really common, though. They usually retail around $5 to maybe $15. What about the Denver benchmark? This is a 1947 Denver Lincoln cent in MS67 red, graded by PCGS. It sold for $252. It also comes from the MNO collection. This piece adds a bit of pedigree to this video. It illustrates exactly what the market expects for a standard gem Denver issue. This one has a clean, well-struck surface without those massive multipliers of the plus grade, though. If you're building a high-end set on a realistic budget, an MS67 is the exact target that you're looking for to fill that 1947D slot. It offers premium quality without the exponential cost of the registry grades. We can't talk about 47 without talking about San Francisco, though. San Francisco had the lowest mintage of the year at just shy of 100 million, but they don't carry the premium that you would expect. This is a 1947S San Francisco Lincoln cent in MS67 red from PCGS. It sold in December of 2025 for $159. Despite the lower production, San Francisco cents from 47 were heavily hoarded in original rolls. Because of that massive hoarding, true gem examples are actually relatively easy to source even now. Circulated 1947 S cents carry almost no premium over Philly or Denver. They usually sell for between 5 and 20 cents raw. The roll hoarding phenomenon means the uncirculated market is actually pretty flooded, keeping prices really accessible if you're on the buying end. Now, a little less accessible is a really cool variety that you should be hunting for, and that's the RPM variety. This is the FS504, a 1947 S over S San Francisco Lincoln cent with a repunch mint mark error, graded MS66 Plus red by PCGS, and it realized $276 in November of 2023. You can also see other sales that run the gamut between around $50 and upwards of $400 or $500, and even more recent sales across other auction houses. Take a look closely at that S mint mark. You can clearly see the secondary S punched slightly offset. In an MS66 Plus red slab, you're also getting a high-grade surface combined with the added technical value of the variety. So this one's a real banger. This is an error you have to actively hunt with a loupe or a scope. If you find this FS504 variety in a raw, circulated condition, it still carries a great premium. You can sell them ungraded for $15 and upwards of $50. So always check the mint marks on your San Francisco issues. If you're a new collector, you have to look beyond the surface. When you are dealing with late 1940s copper, you are fighting a population pressure. Because these coins were struck really well, an MS66 isn't the trophy it used to be in the earlier decades we talked about in previous videos. It's just the starting line. To find the big money, you need to look for plus designations on graded coins, and when you're hunting through your own collections and your own change, those old jars of coins, you need to look for absolute razor-sharp strikes and original, untoned orange-red luster. This is where you're going to see the big bucks. You're going to really be hunting for the highest end you can, because especially in San Francisco, you can pick up MS66, 67s for really, really good money. Right now is a buyer's market for some of the 1947 coins. So look for those sharp strikes and that really blazing orange-red luster. Everything you need to know about 1948 wheat cents. Let's get right to what to look for and why they're valuable. We start off with the Philadelphia baseline. Let's look at that entry point for a gem Philly strike. This is a 1948 Philadelphia Lincoln cent in MS66 red graded by NGC. It sold on December 16th of 2025 for $64. You're probably like, what the heck, Kyle? You just said they're valuable. $64 barely covers the grading fees. Now in a moment, you'll see why we're starting here. With 317 million of these bad boys minted, an MS66 is pretty common as you can see. It possesses the original copper-orange luster, but it probably has those microscopic ticks, or in this case, a slightly softer strike that keeps it out of the 67 tier, where you start to see that value. You want to know about this coin, though, because it gives you a good visual example to compare yours to before you send it off to grade. This is still an excellent entry-level gem, but it is not a profit vehicle for submitters once the grading fees are factored in, like I said before. The major collector's note here, though, in lower circulated grades, a raw 1948 Philadelphia cent is usually worth about its face value and upwards of a few cents for the copper value. Even a nice raw uncirculated coin still only sells for around $1 to $5. So they're worth holding on to, but not necessarily getting graded unless they look absolutely flawless. Now watch what happens when we climb the population report and the condition census. This is a 1948 Philadelphia Lincoln cent graded MS67 plus red by NGC. It sold in the middle of 2025 for $1,680. Now this is the exact same mint and year as the coin we just looked at, but we are looking at a 2,500% increase in value. That plus designation means this coin sits at the very top end of the MS67 grade, boasting a superior eye appeal under 10 times magnification. The NGC census shows only around 100 of these coins in MS67 and only around 8 with the plus. You are paying for the statistical rarity of that preservation, but you can never guess that a coin's going to get a plus designation. That's really going to be up to the grading gods. The price jump here between the MS66 and this 67 plus is where the entire game is played for common date wheat cents. If your raw coin is not flawless under a 10 times loop, it is not going to hit this bracket of 67 or higher, let alone a plus designation. So it may just be worth holding on to rather than sending in and losing your grading fees. Now let's move out to the Denver Mint, where production was lower but still massive at 172 million Lincoln cents. We're going to talk about the Denver benchmark. This is a 1948D Denver Lincoln cent in MS67 red graded by NGC. It sold on January 27th of 2025 for $336. Denver is known for providing a relatively strong, consistent strike during this era. This consistency really made achieving the base MS67 grade a little bit easier compared to the Philly coins, which keeps the price point accessible for basically all of us, especially set builders. Ungraded 1948D cents are really common. An average uncirculated example only sells for around $2 to $5. Really in these coins, not to advocate for grading everything, but grading is really necessary for 1948D coins to really compare them with market values and get the most value out of them when you go to sell it. They have a wide range of values. Ones that are in lower MS grades only really trade and sell for around the $50 to $100 region. But when you get an upwards of MS67 or higher, you can really see the values of 1948D Lincoln cents climb into the hundreds and sometimes the thousands. So if under magnification your Denver cent is truly flawless, then of course, get it certified and get that money. Let's take a look at how color designations impact value though, with a red and brown anomaly. We're heading even further over to the San Francisco Mint. This is a 1948 San Francisco Lincoln cent rated MS65 red and brown by PCGS. It sold on November 3rd of 2025 for $114. Keep in mind, San Francisco had the lowest mintage of the year, only around 81 million. Normally, an MS65 is a very low value grade for this era as a whole, but this coin has a really specific look, and a beautiful one at that. Red and brown, of course, indicates that the coin has begun to tone. If you watch my videos, you know I love tone coins. This one shows traces of mahogany and kind of a chocolatey color. It also still kept a little bit of that original copper. Some collectors specifically build RB sets or tone sets for their unique, organic look. This has created a really niche market that sometimes can see good values, like this one. Even with a color designation like RB, this coin broke $100. While RB coins have their fans, keep in mind that they never reach the stratospheric prices of the full red coins. So of course, buy them if you're into it, get them graded if you're into it, but if you're on the selling end, don't take a risk on RB coins getting back your money. Next, let's talk about a coin that perfectly illustrates the San Francisco hoarding effect though, with this San Francisco gem. This is a 1948 San Francisco Lincoln cent in MS67 red graded by PCGS. It sold on January 20th of 2026 for $104. Now wait a minute, an MS67 red for barely over $100? Despite having the lowest mintage of the year, San Francisco rolls were heavily hoarded by the public. You saw this in other years of wheat cents as well, and in more recent releases from Lincoln cents. The market is saturated. It has a ton of high-grade examples, and an MS67 from San Francisco is actually cheaper than an MS67 from Denver or Philadelphia. Really, a note here is to always check the mintage versus survival rates. A low mintage means nothing if everyone saved them. The 1948S is the easiest high-end gem to acquire for this year, so it is a buyer's market for these San Francisco coins. Finally, we arrive at the absolute ceiling, the PCGS masterpiece. This is a 1948 Philadelphia Lincoln cent graded MS67 Plus red by PCGS. It sold on January 16th of 2025 for $5,280. Out of 317 million minted, PCGS has only graded 6 examples at this level, with 0 finer. This specific coin comes out of the Whispering Pines collection and the Stephenville collection. It features flawless copper orange surfaces, that intense luster, and the heavy dye polish that registry buyers just covet. Anybody with deep pockets that wants one of the top-end coins is going to drop a bid on this one. The pedigree, the perfect color, and the top population status drive this into the $5,000 range and into masterpiece status. Keep in mind here, though, that the pedigree matters a lot. When a coin comes from a famous collection, it adds a layer of provenance and confidence that aggressive bidders will always fight for. A few notes for the new collector. When you're dealing with coins that have mintages over 100 million, the baseline for what constitutes good is extremely high. You are not just looking for a coin with no wear. You are looking for absolute perfection under 5 or 10 times magnification. So get a good loupe or a good scope and you're ready to start hunting. For 1948, the most critical factor is gonna be color designation. Copper is chemically reactive. Over decades, it oxidizes from original red to red-brown or RB, and eventually to fully brown or BN. If you want those big level money payouts, your coin must be designated as red if you get it graded. Furthermore, you need to look at the die state. The absolute top tier coins from this year exhibit what we call heavy die polish. These are striations on the surface of the die itself that transfer to the coin. It creates an intense, scintillating luster that's absolutely beautiful. When you combine perfect original color with a razor-sharp strike from a fresh die, the value multipliers go exponential and you always see them sell for big money. Some of these are worth thousands of dollars. Some of them, not so much. So it's important that you know what to look for on your 1949 pennies that makes them worth keeping. The catch with 1949 is that finding one in pristine, immaculate condition is a real challenge. What to look for and how to spot valuable 1949 pennies. Let's get into it. First, let's start off with the old holder baseline, a cheap penny from 1949, and a real reality check. This is a 1949 Philadelphia Lincoln cent, graded MS63 red by Annex, and it's in an old green label holder. It's sold right at the end of 2025 for just $28. Now, I know we just got into the video, you were all excited for big values, and you're like, Kyle, what the heck is this? A less than $30 coin? I'm wasting my time. Now, this coin has original red luster. It's a beautiful coin, but that low MS63 grade indicates how it has surface chatter, those contact marks, and even a little bit of minor spotting. This is something you want to avoid, and the sub $30 value really proves it. So I wanted to start off here with what not to hold on to. At least, what not to get graded right now. In lower circulated grades like VF or XF, a raw 49 Philly cent is worth around 2 to 5 cents. You're really paying for the copper in it. If it's really nice, raw, and uncirculated, you might get $1 to $5 sometimes, which isn't too bad for a 1 cent face value coin. You only hit serious money when the grade is certified in 65 or higher. So let's watch what happens when we jump up the grading scale and add expert endorsements on top of that. Let's talk about the plus grade and the CAC factor. This is a 1949 Philadelphia Lincoln cent graded MS66 Plus Red by PCGS, featuring a green CAC sticker. It sold in May of 2025 for the healthy price of $765. Now notice the jump from that measly $28 earlier. That plus designation indicates superior eye appeal, and the CAC sticker confirms that this coin is flawless under 10 times magnification. When you clear that MS65-66 hurdle, and you get that CAC nod as well, the value instantly goes way up, as you can see. So you're really looking for coins that have no spotting and retain all of that really hard and good strike. This is a highly liquid collector's grade, so if you have something in the MS66 to 67 range, which is really high, but it is worth holding on to and has great resale value for you in the long run. Next, let's head over to the Mile High Mint to talk about the Denver Color Shift. This is a 1949 Denver Lincoln cent graded MS65 red and brown by PCGS. It sold for $134 in April of 2025. Instead of the blazing orange red, this coin's actually began to oxidize, but it didn't pull much away from the resale value despite the fact the condition wasn't as nice as that previous coin out of Philly. While some collectors, like me, hunt for nicely toned coins, usually they inherently carry a massive discount compared to those fully red counterparts. The red and brown designation limits your financial ceiling a lot. If you are submitting coins to any grading company, only send the blazing, untoned red examples if you're looking for pure profit. What about the N-Boss out of Denver, though? The ultimate heavyweight of the year, a $7,000 penny. This is a 1949 Denver Lincoln cent graded MS67 Plus Red by PCGS, Also CAC approved. It realized $7,800 in January of 2025. This is tied for the finest known example. It's absolutely gorgeous. It also carries the elite dual pedigree of the V.E.R.A and Whispering Pines collections. The 1949D is notoriously challenging to find in really perfect condition like this, especially making a plus grade CAC approved specimen a real treasure. Bold motifs and that unblemished luster really drove the price to nearly $8,000 for this coin. A main note here is the provenance. Of course, the Stuart V.E.R.A and Whispering Pines names attached to this slab are going to guarantee high bidding from those deep pocket registry builders. This is the best of the best. Pedigree is of course a massive value driver here, but the grade of MS67 Plus is really what sent this thing into the stratosphere. Next, let's head further west from Philadelphia and talk about the San Francisco hoard effect. San Francisco had the lowest mintage of the year, only $64 million, but watch the price tag. This is a 1949 San Francisco Lincoln cent, graded MS67 red by NGC. It sold for $159 in November of 2025. Now this is a fantastic entry point for any of you. Why is it so cheap though? This is because, like many other wheat cents that we've talked about, especially through the 40s, the 1949 San Francisco rolls were heavily hoarded by the public. The market is saturated with high-grade examples all the way to today, keeping the MS67 price actually suppressed compared to the Denver and Philly counterparts. Keep in mind that low mintage does not equal high value if the survival rate of the asset is massive. 49S is one of the easiest gems to acquire, so pick them up if you ever see them at a show or a local shop for a good price. Let's talk about the absolute peak out of the San Francisco Mint though, the S Mint ceiling. This is a 1949 San Francisco Lincoln cent, graded MS67 Plus red by PCGS, with a CAC sticker. It sold for $1,680 in the beginning of 2025. Even with that massive roll hoarding, finding an S Mint that deserves the plus designation is really tough, and something that us submitters can never bank on. This one also came from the Whispering Pines collection, which added a lot of provenance to it as well. This coin really separates itself from that $160 hoard coin through the uniform, softly frosted luster, and it has absolutely zero blemishes. It's beautiful, under 10 times magnification, and is absolutely flawless. 1949 is a really great year to look for. It closes out the 40s. It's a wonderful wheat cent that's approaching the end of them in the last decade of the wheat cents before the transition. So hunting for them is something I love, and I have a small strategy for you. Always reject the ones with carbon spots. If your 1949 cent has even a microscopic black speck under your loupe, under your magnifier, I would personally suggest just sticking it in the album, holding on to it, and not sending it in for grading right now. If you're on the buying end, if you're ever able to grab something up like one of those San Francisco coins that has some pedigree to it, know that you're getting something with a serious premium just because it was from a previous collection of note. Like I said before, and speaking of San Francisco, they are the hot ticket item for 1949 on the market right now and are really affordable. So pick them up if you can, because I think they're going to gain lots of value over the years to come.